There's a liquid you can mix for about $1 per bottle, and it breaks the grip of rust on seized bolts faster than any commercial spray on the market. Not a temporary lubricant that wears off in a day. A chemical mixture that penetrates deep into rusted threads and frees parts that WD-40 simply cannot touch. Mechanics have quietly used this exact combination since the early 1960s, long before spray cans dominated hardware store shelves. A machinist testing lab once measured this homemade mixture against every major commercial penetrating oil sold at the time. The results were embarrassing for an industry built on $40 spray cans. The penetrating oil industry generates over $1 billion annually selling products that perform worse than a mixture two mechanics can make in their own garage for pennies. They did not stop mentioning this mixture because it failed. They stopped mentioning it because you cannot put a brand name and a premium price tag on acetone and transmission fluid. This is the story of the mechanic's secret penetrant, and the industry that buried it under decades of flashy spray can marketing. Welcome to Vault Breaker. This is where we open every single vault that billion-dollar industries paid good money to lock shut. If this knowledge matters to you, subscribe and ring the bell right now, because what you are about to learn changes how you approach every seized bolt you will ever face. Go back to the early 1960s, inside independent auto repair shops across the American Midwest. Mechanics, working on aging vehicles, constantly faced rusted, seized bolts that commercial penetrating oils of the era struggled to free without hours of soaking and repeated hammering. Shop mechanics began experimenting with combining two cheap, readily available shop fluids to create something more effective than anything sold in a can. Acetone, a powerful solvent found in most garages, combined with automatic transmission fluid, created a mixture that behaved completely differently from either ingredient alone. Word of this mixture spread by word of mouth between mechanics, shop to shop, passed down as shop floor knowledge rather than anything written in a manual. By the 1970s, this combination had become something of an open secret among professional mechanics, even as consumer spray cans dominated store shelves and advertising. Racing teams and heavy equipment mechanics working on the rustiest, most abused machinery adopted the mixture heavily during this period because a single stuck bolt on a race day could cost an entire competition. Here is the actual science behind why this combination works so much better than a single ingredient spray. Rust forms a rough, porous layer between the bolt threads and the surrounding metal, creating countless microscopic gaps where corrosion has physically wedged the two surfaces together. A standard penetrating oil is thick and viscous, which means it struggles to travel deep into those microscopic gaps quickly. Acetone is an extremely low viscosity solvent, meaning it flows and wicks into tiny spaces far faster than oil-based products ever could. When mixed 50-50 with automatic transmission fluid, the acetone acts as a carrier, rapidly transporting the lubricating fluid deep into the corroded threads within minutes rather than hours. Once the acetone evaporates, it leaves behind a thin film of transmission fluid lubricant sitting exactly where it is needed most, deep inside the threads themselves. This combination effectively separates the mechanical bond rust has created between metal surfaces, allowing the bolt to turn free where before it would have simply sheared off. Independent testing published in a machinist trade magazine in 2007 confirmed what shop mechanics already knew from decades of hands-on experience. This homemade 50-50 mixture outperformed every major commercial penetrating oil tested, including products costing significantly more per ounce, breaking bolts free in a fraction of the time. The magazine's testing measured how much force was required to loosen identically rusted bolts after each product was applied and allowed to sit for the same amount of time. The acetone and transmission fluid mixture consistently required less rotational force to break the bond, meaning fewer snapped bolts and less time spent per fastener across an entire job. Now here is exactly why this knowledge never made it onto store shelves in an obvious way. A can of commercial penetrating oil retails for $8 to $15 and contains proprietary branding, marketing budgets, and packaging costs built into that price. Acetone costs about $4 a quart at any hardware store. Transmission fluid costs about $6 a quart at any auto parts store. Mixed together, that combination produces enough penetrating fluid to last the average garage for years, at a fraction of the ongoing cost of repeatedly buying branded spray cans. A solution mechanics can mix themselves from two unbranded shop fluids does not generate the same repeat purchase revenue as a trademarked spray can with a recognizable logo. So the knowledge stayed inside professional shops, past shop floor to shop floor, while consumer advertising continued pushing the branded alternative. Think about every seized bolt you have fought with for an hour using a store-bought spray, only to eventually snap the bolt head off in frustration. Think about every $40 spray can you have purchased over the years for a problem two $4 shop fluids could have solved faster. If you have made it this far, you already know more about penetrating rusted bolts than most people spraying and respraying a stuck fastener for an hour straight. Subscribe and share this with anyone who has ever fought a rusted bolt in their garage. Now stay with me, because here's exactly how to mix and use this yourself. Purchase a quart of acetone from any hardware store and a quart of automatic transmission fluid from any auto parts store for about $10 combined. Mix equal parts acetone and transmission fluid in a clean, sealed metal or glass container, since acetone can degrade certain plastics over time. Shake the container thoroughly before each use, as the two liquids can separate slightly if left sitting for a long period. Apply the mixture generously and directly onto the seized bolt or rusted fastener using a small brush or a metal oil can with a thin spout. Allow the mixture to sit and penetrate for at least 10 to 15 minutes before attempting to loosen the fastener. For severely seized bolts that have been rusted for years, apply a second coating and allow it to sit overnight for maximum penetration depth. When you attempt to loosen the bolt, use steady, controlled pressure rather than a sudden jerking motion, which reduces the risk of snapping an already weakened bolt head. I need to be honest with you about one important safety note here. Acetone is highly flammable, so always work in a well-ventilated area, away from open flames, pilot lights, or active welding equipment, and store the mixture in a properly labeled, sealed container away from heat sources. This is a workshop chemical mixture, not something to store loosely or use carelessly, and standard shop safety practices apply exactly as they would with any solvent. A mechanic in rural Wisconsin documented using this 50-50 mixture on a fleet of aging farm equipment in the fall of 2021. Bolts that had resisted commercial penetrating spray for over 30 minutes each came loose within 10 minutes using the acetone and transmission fluid mixture, saving him hours of labor across dozens of fasteners that season. Mechanics have trusted this mixture since the early 1960s, refining it through decades of hands-on shop experience rather than laboratory marketing. The penetrating oil industry built a business model around branded convenience, while the actual most effective solution remained a shop floor secret passed mechanic to mechanic. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe and share it with someone who still fights every seized bolt with an overpriced spray can. The next vault opens soon, and what is buried inside it goes even deeper than this one.